Whether we're talking about a data center server powering cloud providers like AWS and iCloud, your laptop, game console, or your phone, they all function the same way and have the same basic parts inside. But what are those parts, and what do they all do? Let's take a closer look inside a computer to understand what everything does and how it all connects. Imagine a desk where you might do some work. You've got a nice big area to write on, and keep a few documents or books on, open to a specific page. If you need to reference another document, you open a filing cabinet and look for it there. Then you pull it out, put it on your desk to read. If your desk is too small, you might have to move some files around, and maybe even put some away in the file cabinet. You can get them back out again later when you need them. We have three major components here. The desk, where we put files we're currently working on, the file drawer, where we store things long-term to retrieve when we need them, and then the thing doing the actual work. The file drawer is like a hard drive. The desk is memory, and you are the CPU. These three major components make up a computer. The best way to see these components is with a desktop personal computer, or PC. On the outside, we have a monitor of some kind to display data so that you know what you're doing. The mouse and keyboard provide a method for you to interact with the computer, and then there's the computer itself. In the front, there's a power button to turn the computer on or off, and sometimes a reboot button which turns the computer off and then on again. Around the back, we have a power supply and a lot of input and output or I/O ports to connect various accessories, such as USB ports to connect your mouse and keyboard, perhaps a PS2 port for old keyboards, DVI and HDMI ports for your monitor, a wired Ethernet port to connect you to the internet, ports for your speakers and microphone, and maybe another HDMI port for your monitor, but this time powered by your expensive graphics card. But this is just the case, a metal or plastic box that holds and protects all the important parts inside. So let's take a look there. The largest part you'll see is the motherboard, and every other part connects to it. This is the computer's nervous system. Just like in your body, it passes information from one part to another. It is the glue that connects everything together. Whenever one part needs to talk to another part, which is all the time, they talk via the motherboard. For more functionality, motherboards can be upgraded with expansion cards, but over the years, the motherboard itself absorbed many of those features. So now they also include things like audio processing, networking, and video, which all used to be separate cards. The mouse and keyboard connect to the motherboard with USB ports, those audio ports in the back, part of the motherboard. The RJ45 network connector in the back, motherboard. And this motherboard also supports video processing, with multiple options for connecting a monitor, like VGA, DVI, and HDMI. There are many motherboard manufacturers, with some of the largest ones being Asus, MSI, ASRock, and Gigabyte. The CPU is what actually does the work. The largest PC CPU manufacturers are Intel and AMD. CPU stands for Central Processing Unit, and when you hear someone say a computer is thinking or doing something, this is the part that's doing it. And when it's thinking hard, it can get really hot. So to keep it cool, a large hunk of specially designed metal called a heatsink is attached on top to draw away the heat the CPU generates. A fan is also included to help remove all that hot air and bring fresh, cool air in. RAM, sometimes just called memory, is where the CPU stores information it's currently using or will use again soon. This is short-term storage. This is not where your files are stored. The data stored in RAM is not saved. If you lose power or reload the computer, this data is gone. For long-term storage, you want to use the hard drive. This is where all your files, your songs, movies, and apps are kept. It can be connected to the motherboard using a serial ATA or SATA cable. Older hard drives use spinning magnetic disks, were quite heavy and loud. Solid-state drives, or SSDs, are the more popular alternative now, with no moving parts and silent operation. Also gaining popularity are NVMe drives, which look a lot like RAM and are connected to the motherboard directly without a cable. These are very fast drives, but that speed comes with a hefty price tag. If you're a gamer or do heavy graphics and design work, the video capabilities that the motherboard and CPU provide might not suffice. You will probably want a dedicated video card with a graphical processing unit, or a GPU. GPUs specialize in performing a different kind of calculation than general-purpose CPUs, which makes them far better suited for graphics and video applications, and these days for artificial intelligence as well. The two largest vendors of GPUs are NVIDIA and AMD. These video cards also usually get pretty hot, so you'll often find them with their own set of heat sinks and fans. To power all of this, you need a power supply. This converts the AC current from your wall outlet into DC current for the small sensitive electronics. The power supply supplies power to the most components via the motherboard, but some power-hungry components need their own connection, such as the hard drive and graphics card. On Earth, the hard drives don't actually just float above the motherboard. They're actually going to be mounted in some kind of a drive bay. An extra case fan or 2 or 3 helps keep everything running nice and cool by pushing all the hot air out and drawing fresh cool air in. And finally, all of these parts are mounted inside a plastic or metal case for protection and or transportation. A modern smartphone is no different. All the same parts are there, just much, much smaller, and usually designed not to be taken apart or replaced. When we look inside, it looks a little different, but there are the same familiar faces. We have a CPU, memory, storage, and a GPU, all connected to a motherboard. These three parts, the CPU, memory, and storage, are the primary and most important components of every computer. You might have more, but you'll never have less.